Hey, this is John Densmore of The Doors, and you're on BackstageAxxess.com, where the real show begins.
It will be untrue. Know that I would be a lie if I were to say to you.
BackstageAxxess.com. We're here at the Record Archive in Rochester, New York, with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and Doors legend John Densmore.
Legend. I'm still alive, thank you.
John just came out with a second book titled The Doors Unhinged on Percussive Press, and the book goes into great detail about the trial that Mr. Densmore waged against his former bandmates, Mr. Manzarek and Mr. Robbie Krieger, and proper usages of the band name going forward. And but way back when you initiated the trial, what was the major tipping point to say, you know what, this is it, I gotta do something here?
Well, I mean, Ray and Robbie were on tour, and I kept seeing the ads, and I kept calling Robbie and said, you got to do something about this. You got to, are you kidding? It doesn't, the 21st century is so small, and the logo's so big, and they didn't change it, so I had to do it.
And if you read the book, it obviously goes into great detail about, there's a lot more that goes into it, because regarding the Buick commercial back in the late '60s when Jim Morrison was alive, and
Come on Buick, light my fire,
and he didn't have he obviously didn't want to do the commercial.
Well, what he did was that he said he would smash a car on television with a sledgehammer, and I took that as a no.
Right. And so obviously you're protecting the legacy and integrity of the band. You have been ever since then. And the words that Jim left obviously mean a lot to you, maybe not as much as to other people, but you take that to heart. And 45 years you've been kind of, leading the crusade to protect the,
And if you're a new band trying to pay the rent, maybe hawk your stuff for commercials. But
right.
Later, if you get some success, then maybe re-examine that. Tom Waits said, do you want to change your lyrics to a jingle?
And just go on to exactly what we're talking about here when John was mentioning about the Doors name. You want our video guy to kind of get a close-up of that? Maybe you can kind of see that, where the 21st century is not as prevalent and big as font as the Doors itself. And this is actually a t-shirt that was actually bought by our video guy at a show back in Chicago in 2003 on this tour that John actually
so you can see it's like, okay, the Doors without Jim Morrison, the Stones without Mick, the Police without Sting. Can't do that. Come on. Founding members of the Doors is totally cool, which is what's going on now. The Doors are back on their hinges.
And this book just came out last week. And how long did it take you actually to write the book, the whole thing?
Forever. This is my
was it longer than the first book? Did it take you longer?
This is my second self-centered memoir. The first one was about 10 years off and on. This one's three or four.
How did you remember all the details? This is a very detailed-oriented book, and every nook and cranny of emotion and trial and tribulation through the whole process. I mean, it seems like you documented it very well. So my question is, how did you remember everything?
To write is to rewrite. I skimmed 20,000 pages of trial transcripts and pulled out what I felt would be good. And then I tried to write some interior dialogue so it wouldn't be so antiseptic and boring,
Right. And going back to the Buick, I call it the debacle. When you guys actually, after that, before Jim left for Paris, there were legal documents drawn up, and and this kind of obviously leads to where we are today, that all four members had an equal say of what business ventures you guys were decided to go forward. Obviously, Bob Green at the time, your tour manager, or I should say the Doors manager, was kind of a substitute for Jim going to Paris, but it did not give him any type of power to, say something was okay unless when Jim was alive to obviously okay that.
Damn, you read this thing.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize until the trial. And then I see all these little one-page agreements, several of them, about no one can do a commercial. You have to have approval, blah, blah, blah. And it was Jim. Like, he's leaving for Paris. And you think about it. He did not really write Light My Fire. We needed one line, and he thought of Our Love Become a Funeral Pyre. But, yeah, right. So he cares about the whole catalog,
right.
That's sweet.
But that obviously it was very forward thinking because, obviously, nobody predicted his demise, but, obviously, putting that one, those couple lines in really, shaped your future, as a entity of the Doors.
Jim couldn't play one chord on one instrument, so he was insecure about that and said, how do you write songs, and why don't we just share everything, share the writing credit and the money, and I have a nice house and a couple groovy cars, and I know the other guys do too. I know to the penny what they got, and so it's not a case of somebody being broke and needing the dough,
right?
So I'm still hearing Jim's ghost.
And going through the cross-examination and it goes into the book about, you were called a lot of bad things, communist, terrorist, to name a few. But
let me explain that.
That comes to say go into
that. We had contracts saying we all own the name together, so they didn't have a case. So the lawyers character assassinate,
right?
Try to make the jury think you're some crazy weirdo that they should vote against. So when the towers came down, I was on the phone with Robbie, and a long conversation. And somewhere in there, I said, we're a rich country. We should look at why this happened or whatever. So you excerpt one sentence like that and take it out of context, and you can make someone look bad.
See what you can draw from it, because obviously, like you said, that you pretty had a strong case, and they had to probably get what they can and muster up some type of. I mean, that's kind of going rail out of left field, but obviously, your character was kind of in question at that time. And did you ever feel that from other musicians when you were hearing about the trial that maybe you were looked at or treated at differently after hearing that?
Not other musicians, but
or friends or family too.
When I started the tough legal struggle, some hardcore fans were like, "Man, he's ruining the band we love," and that's why I have struggled for years to get this story out. So you find out from this that I was trying to preserve the legacy that Jim wanted, and the band is Jim and Ray and Robbie and John, not Ray and Robbie and Ian and Stuart and Fred and Shirley and Tom.
And that goes into the greed gene, which is the last chapter of the book, and that pretty much sums up the whole book. If you want to go into that, because as a human race, obviously everybody wants more of whatever is good, and money, currency, everybody wants more and more and more. But obviously you are kind of the opposite, which is very different, and you're a man of principle and character, and it's very rare to see that. And you stood up for what words were and what was written back in the late 60s, and you kind of stood that. And
thanks. I mean, I don't mind a little more. I don't need a lot more. And also I want to say that the last chapter, which I sent to Ray and Robbie recently to make sure they read it, also says, how could I not love you guys? We created this magic that was bigger than all of us in a garage, and you're my musical brothers, So I want to make sure they got that, and we sort of get onto the road of healing.
Any feedback from them yet?
Yeah, Robbie, and we're all talking a little bit now. Robbie and I are going to hang pretty soon.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not as in dire straits as the book probably points it out. You guys are kind of on the road to mending, is what.
Right, but we're not going to go on the road with the gymitator. But, you know, in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, what a sweet thing maybe to play like Pink Floyd, who's had their struggles. They did Live Aid or something.
They did Live Aid in 2005. They did when all the 8 countries got together. They
Right.
the original Pink Floyd at the time
So
got together and did.
what
did
if we did a, an altruistic one-off or two? That would ring true.
right? Who would actually fill in
Well,
vocals? That would be the
that's-
big. A lot of that's a big.
I'm pretty clear now. Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, when he did the, yeah, I mean, he can do everybody. He could do David Bowie. He could do Morrison. He could do a lot of different.
Yeah.
But when the book came out, obviously last week, you said that you're getting a little bit of feedback from the, Robbie. Nothing from Ray, I guess you said, right?
Oh, yeah,
Ray, a
we're
little bit?
communicating a
Okay.
little. Yeah.
Anybody else give you feedback? Any other musicians? Any friends? Anybody positive
Well,
or negative?
Gosh, golly gee, if you look on the back of the book,
Well,
Tom,
besides, the back of the book, obviously,
Tom
with
Waits
Tom Waits
says,
and
I'm not for sale.
Tom
and that's-
Petty, Eddie Vedder, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the most touching is Eddie Vedder saying that I don't want to think about someday I'll be a dead rock star, but I hope there's someone around like Mr. Densmore to look after my legacy. Oh, my God. How can I not love that guy?
And Randy Newman, who I'm going to go into, just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last week. And I actually was there. I witnessed it. It was the first time in 20 years that they had the induction ceremony in L.A. The last time that they had it, and a band named The Doors were inducted in 1993.
How was Randy? Did he speak?
He did, and he played. He played 2 songs. He played I Love L.A. and the short song, Small People.
What did he say? He just
He thanked
who inducted him?
Don Henley.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, Don Henley inducted him, and he was very thankful, and the whole speech. And
He is a
talking about-
character
Yeah.
because I asked him.
Yep.
It says John Densmore's a great man, has written a very funny book, and I said, Randy, you meant I'm a funny guy and have written a great book. He said, no. I said, well, this guy has a different take on the world. Everything is funny to him.
Yeah, he was. It was a good performance, and a lot of other bands obviously are part of that. But I just wanted to bring that up. That it was 20 years since. You guys actually played as a unit. Was that? Did you guys do any shows after that? Did you guys play together, or was that the last time you guys performed together?
I'm 68. What are you doing to me? I don't know. I just remember we did Break On Through, Roadhouse, and Light My Fire with Eddie.
Yeah.
It was great.
Are you performing at all nowadays? I know you did some stuff with Carlos Santana, play with Eddie a little bit. I'm sure a lot of the fans out there want to know, if you're keeping your chops up and what's going on.
Wow, they've never left. Well, I'm way into into finding the music in between sentences. So, but occasionally I go out and play, and I will continue to do so. Really focusing on promoting this book right now.
Actually, in the book, it didn't really say too much about, you actually getting, and you probably mentioned this in the first autobiography, what was that moment like when you did receive the call that Jim passed? Where were you? Were you with the other guys?
Yeah.
Was it kind of like you guys didn't believe it? Or
Right. Yeah, you
was it kinda like
answered
that?
it all
Yeah.
for me. I was with the other guys. We were on a break from rehearsing and kind of didn't believe it. I mean, I thought he'd be an Irish drunk who'd live forever. And over time, it sank in that it was true.
Did you guys actually go to Paris for the?
We immediately
the
sent our
services, or-
road manager, our manager, to see if it was true. A few weeks before Paul McCartney death rumors were out, he went there, and Jim was buried that weekend. that's why the rumors of him still being alive
Right.
circulated. And
With Elvis and
yeah,
and everybody else. Before you guys went to trial, I think was a really good read was the Morrison estate and the Corson estate joined forces with you. Now, if for some reason you felt that at the time you didn't want to go to trial and put everything on the line, do you feel that at any time the estates might have initiated something on their behalf and got you involved, vice versa kind of thing?
wow. I'm not sure. They're pretty shy. It took me a few months to lobby them. I was sending them the ads. Look, at your son is alive and playing, and me too. And then they came around. They're real shy people, so I don't think it would have happened in the reverse. But it was so healing and a blessing that I never met Jim's dad till this trial, and we wrote songs against the Vietnam War, and he was fighting the Vietnam War.
And for people out there, Jim Morrison's dad was a admiral in the Navy, I believe, wasn't he? And a high-ranking, one of the highest-ranking officials you can get. So obviously, having a son that's, combating the war at the time was not deemed very friendly and positive, say the least. But
and then at 86, he comes to support his son's legacy.
Right, and I think that's very touching if you read that in the book. And do you have a relationship with the estate still? I know the parents have been deceased, but I mean the brother and sister of Jim and the Corson estate.
Yeah. Jim's sister, I talk to occasionally, and Pam's mom, she's great. She's about 86 too.
Oh, she's up there.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up here at the Record Archive in New York, and just John, you want to let the fans know what obviously you're going to be doing a tour for this book right here, The Doors Unhinged. Any other plans that you got going on besides the book?
No, but let me say thank you so much for being interested in what I went through to try and straighten out what the Doors mean to me.
BackstageAxxess.com. Check out this legend. Thanks for taking the time.